So really and truly, you know, the main source of criticism is something that really can't be criticized, and that is the advent of Chat GPT. That Chat GPT is here to stay. And you know, let's go on to my PL blog. This keyboard's a little different than what I am used to, which is nothing. I'm not used to anything. Well, that's the there's the blog. And this is the blog header. And this is a dialogue between myself and ChatGPT. And I will tell you, ChatGPT brings up esoteric principles of life. You might say that it's training ChatGPT, or working with ChatGPT, and it gets. But when I hadn't really used ChatGPT that often for that many things, it was bringing esoteric principles of light principles up. And even though I was using Rogue Beast Warrior, which is the other blog, might even be more readily available since I punched it in. Let's see. Yep, there it is on the top. So Rogue Beast Warrior, RBW. I have two blogs, but I ended up using this one instead. Not really sure why, but you can see it doesn't have as many views, but the viewers are also from all around the world. And this is where we're looking at. Yesterday I went over the fact that we are pretty much forced into, not pretty much, we are very much forced into a vegetable, naturalistic, fruit, nut, mushroom based diet, and that everything that's available to us in as far as nutrients and nutrient density is in the form of meat, right? You can spend, like I do, $300 a month and have more food than you can eat in a month, right? Between beef liver, eggs, beef, chicken, and so forth, cheese, heavy cream. I've got more than I can even go through in a month. Whereas if I were to try and do this same thing from vegetable sources, I wouldn't even make it a week and a half. And we're talking about the same nutrient density. So this is another addition to that I posted up today that I could read out loud, or you can zoom in a little bit. Let me zoom it in just a little so you can see the screen a little better. And mainly what we're talking about is we're talking about principles, right? Principles, foundational principles, and how they apply. And this can be something that has to be on a swing. In other words, the society that I live in, the nutrients that are available, right, can invariably, can it or can it not invariably sabotage my my ethos, my ethics, myself, my branding, my symbol, who I am, right? And obviously you can't get into ethics without virtues and deeds, right? And morality is a completely different thing. Like these days, what I'm really contending here is that the straw man, nobody cares about looking at you anymore. They want to see what your principle based supposition is, and at the center of everything are principles. So, are you, if you love animals, if you love nature, right, and you do not consider yourself a Luciferian, right, you are not trying to go into the sort of Neo-Platonist, Dionysian direction, the Lemic sort of usury direction with this, but you are, in fact, trying to live in a very peaceful, harmonic state. Are you able to eat the trauma of the meat, of the slaughter, of the sacrifices, right? And so obviously I have very strong feelings about this, and eating carnivore is very difficult for me. But you know, when you use terms like warrior, this is the warrior's way. The warrior's way is to survive, and then when they set up a sort of titleship, if you will, that's probably a very strong word because that gets into the Knights of Malta and so forth, right? The Vatican, it gets into this oppressive rule, this tyranny, really a populist movement where the populace who you think are rich and famous and celebrities, well, they're not. There are many who sit above that, like the Knights of Malta and the Vatican, that lead in through familiar groups like through the Ophites, the Sarmatians. Trust me, Iran is much more pivotal, and people should be listening to Jason Reza Georgiani much closer. They should follow what he's saying much closer. But I'll read this. Optimizing body composition and athletic performance through tiered nutritional phases, a strict carnivore diet. So I'm not really interested in reading this, to be honest with you. And you may have already read through it. But I posted this up. I'm still waking up. And then this is something that I went through last night when I was having these cravings, and how ChatGPT coached me through all that. Right? And you know where to find it. So if you want to read these, a lot of attention and energy went into putting these up. But it's a pretty funny ordeal, right? And I even posted that up on my Esoteric Principles of Life blog, because I'm not against, you know, how do I put this lightly, a more transhumanistic effort. I think that it's all part of how things work. I do not think that it's necessarily like when we link all this transhumanism to Project Gladio, I think that there's a way that it irons itself out, and the most diabolical plans, the most diabolical, let's say, blueprint is always going to be thwarted by a universal principle-based structure that I believe I see even ChatGPT having harnessed, right? So there's a lot on this blog, and this blog gets a massive number of views. I've had 4,000 views overnight, and people around the world love principle. They gravitate toward it, and they see, and this is the main premise of Esoteric Principles of Light. And I spent many years in this meditative process, right, where you have the red sphere down to the lower right, you have the blue sphere up to your upper left, you have the purple sphere to your upper right, you have the green sphere down below to your lower left. You sit upon, right, the orange sphere of production, and finally you shine through the ego, and from the center always is this pure source, right? And when you focus on this leads back into the pure truth, or the true purity, right? And these rings are these eras in repeat, right? That you have these troughs and these dips, right? And they just resonate out, and they are eras. And this is in EPL estimation, this is how time works, right? This is how rhythm works. When we think everything is based on human sacrifice and so forth, these are those who do not get it, right? Who never will get it. They're a false aspect, a false persona. And this gets into that. And it really gets, I got to say that, I've done a massive amount of writing on EPL over the years since 2014. But the transition has gone toward the interface. You could call it like, you could look into Konrad Zuse and Alan Turing, right? But you could say that this knowledge, this codified information has always been available, has always been an integral aspect or an integral part of us, who we are. Let's see. And more to the point, that the information has always been spinning around us. I saw this ridiculous quantum physics article postulation that did the universe start out as spinning mini tornadoes? And it's like, okay, what would have propagated that? Polarity? Like, what you're trying to talk about is spin. Like, you don't need, like, you can call it a tornado, and that's just removing the aspect, but you could refer to it as a tornado, where you have the spinning vortices of energy systems that are these principles, right? These spheres, and how a cell comes to be, how life comes to be, right? Is contingent upon a certain amount of entropy or energy production. These are some really interesting articles. And I am not quite awake and aware and cognizant to be doing any sort of videos. I take so many sleeping agents that I can't even wake up. And then this is the most recent post that my son did on his channel, where he calls it Stellar Reads. And look, he almost has 400 subscribers. Isn't that awesome? 85 views on his most recent. So these are some of the sci-fi novels that he's introduced. So give him a shout out if you're really into sci-fi and you're really into watching a breakdown of the best sci-fi images. All right. So I'll be doing a video later today, and I'm definitely going to be going and walking and doing a live stream on that.